So they hired Jerry Carroll to do TV commercials that were broadcast that saturated the airwaves, and this is the days before cable TV,
Right.
There were like 9 channels, and they were all over the channels in New York and throughout the tri-state area, and all night too, because they had only just started, broadcasting late night programming. They were all over the place, and it was like these very distinct commercials. Our prices are insane. I can't do justice to it. You find them on YouTube.
We'll have to try to mix one in. Yeah.
They're all over. Yeah. So that became really the signature for Crazy Eddie. This obnoxious guy in a turtleneck sweater. Yeah. Well, what he would do is he would charge sales tax. That was one of the main ways he was able to compete with other small retailers. He would charge sales tax, but not pass it on to the government. Now, in those days, like today, it was like 7%. So you've got a 7% built-in profit margin. Mm-hmm. And, the big electronic retailers would not sell to him, so he found alternate sources of supply.
Yes.
Which were very colorful, some of them. I mean, one was a Numbers Bank in the Bronx.
Which
happened to operate a retail store.
Right.
Gave him merchandise, and then he figured out ways of making money. Maybe dealing with the fact that he had only limited supply, dealing with the customers in his own sort of special way.
In his own special way, yeah.
They loved floods and they loved burglaries, or fires, burglaries. They loved any kind of incident because he always insured his merchandise for the retail price. Best insurance. And then what happened if they had a flood, say, they'd truck in merchandise from stores. They'd truck in all the slow-moving merchandise from other stores, and they'd drop it off at the store where there was the flood and make sure everything got all wet and everything. And they put in a claim for the stuff that wasn't really, genuinely flooded.
Right.
And they call that spiking the claim. That was a thing. That's something they did throughout the history of Crazy Eddie. They didn't do everything throughout the history, but that was one of the things. They was a reliable moneymaker. They did that. Look, this guy, and they called him the second Sam Walton. He was called at one point the second. Eddie was called the second Sam Walton, just as Sam Bankman-Fried has been called the second, the second Warren Buffett. Yeah. I mean, whenever you're dealing with seconds, second Warren Buffett, the second whatever, you always have to be very careful with that.
The fact that James Brown offered to be the voice of Crazy Eddie early on?
James Brown wanted to be the spokesman for Crazy Eddie.
He offered. Why?
He just liked Crazy Eddie. And Crazy Eddie was big back in the 80s, and James Brown needed the work. So James Brown, and you have all these cameos in this book. James Brown. You have individuals just coming in and making brief appearances, and exiting, and you have to just see the loyalty toward the man. Go to his grave. He's buried out on Staten Island. It's covered with stones, sort of like Schindler's grave. People visit his grave out of respect, and they put, you put stones on the grave, which is what you do when you visit a Jewish grave. And it's covered with stones. He's still there. People love and admire him to this day. Even people who were ripped off by him.